Okay, I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Chico Unified School District for January 15th, 2020. I would like to report that the board was in closed session prior to this meeting. During that meeting, the board authorized staff to provide an offer to purchase the property located at 2860 Fair Street, owned by Shutterfly LLC, in the amount of $4,810,000. The district's offer included a 90-day due diligence period and a 30-day closing period following the expiration of the due diligence period. The board further authorized staff to negotiate a purchase and sale agreement with the property owner consistent with these terms. As far as our agenda tonight, I wanted to make sure you were aware that there was a change in that the second opportunity for items from the floor was inadvertently omitted, and we will have a second opportunity for items from the floor following item 10 on the agenda after Human Resources. If you would, please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We will start off this evening with student reports.
So as we begin each and every one of our board meetings, we get to hear from students, and tonight we have a special presentation from Shasta Elementary School. So I'd like to introduce Bruce Baynard, who will tell us what we're about to see.
Good evening. Thank you, Kelly. I'm super excited. Every year we come to the board meeting and get to show off a sneak preview of our school's drama department. I use department in quotes because it's not really a function of the school. It is a parent-run group, thanks to Corey Woods, our director, and her faithful assistant, Heather Martin. They have been working diligently with these kids since the beginning of the school year, and they have been doing rehearsals 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week, to get ready for our shows that are coming up January 30th, which is a Friday, Thursday, January 30th, Friday, January 31st, and then 2 shows on Saturday, February 1st, one at 2 o'clock, one at 7 o'clock. All the shows will be at the Center for the Arts at PV, and the most amazing thing about these 2 women isn't that they are putting together this play, but that they are putting together this play with 83 students involved in the cast.
Wow.
So we're very excited because we have been using a classroom after school and half of the blacktop while they do their rehearsals, and they just moved into the cafeteria. We put our stage back in the multi-purpose room for a few weeks, and so they are deep into rehearsals, and it is getting more and more exciting on campus, and I'm starting to hear the songs more and more, so I'm really excited to actually hear the song in a true performance tonight, and I know that our students are super excited, so I'm going to introduce you to them and who they're playing. First, we're going to start with Lucy Anstein. She is playing Wendy Darling. Stand on up. Lucy is a 5th grader, and we're going to miss her a ton next year. Andreas Moreno is playing John Darling. We're going to miss him, too. And Jackson Gephardt is playing Michael Darling. And Indra Martin is playing Mrs. Darling. And Jasmine Ponce is playing Nana, but she's not here. Luckily, she is playing the role of Nana the dog, and so we'll imagine her part. We have some moral supporters as well. Cody Martin is going to be standing in, so hopefully Jasmine will be able to play the role on the nights, but we've got Cody just in case, right? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Corey Woods, who's going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to see, and make sure you buy your tickets, because with 83 kids in the cast, with their parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, we could sell out. So buy your tickets online now.
Hello, my name is Corey, as you guys all just heard. I am very excited to present this number for you guys today. It's going to be a lot of fun. The kids have been working really hard. As Bruce said, we have 83 kids. It's because I can't say no. Every kid that tries out gets the name on the list, and they all get an opportunity to shine on stage. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. Our play this year is Peter Pan, a musical adventure by Pioneer Drama. It's a pretty straightforward adaptation of Peter Pan with a lot of really fresh, great new music, and we hope you enjoy our song today. It is called The Boy Who Never Grew Up. Are you guys ready? You guys got this. You're good. Remember, taste them. Yep. All right. You start with one.
This is the boy who never grew up. He lives in a world far away from ours called Neverland. Is it a magical place? There's a secret land that grown-ups don't understand. There's pirates and Indians fighting and scary crocodiles fighting, where every day is exciting and terrifying the moon. He never grew up. Is he a real boy, Wendy? Yes. His name is Peter Pan. Is it a just a silly Neverland is not a dream as real as can be. There are mermaids and fairies as real as can be. Every day is fun and adventure from the heart. It's over. Someone's coming. Are you still awake there? And are your chargers all sleeping quietly? I thought it was voices. You mustn't wake the children. Do you know this old picture? It says the boy who never grew up. He looks vaguely familiar. That's because it says his name, Mother. Wendy, are you still awake? So are we. Why are you up this late? Every night at bedtime, Wendy tells a story. Sometimes it's a happy one. Stories where they go, stories that are creepy. Sometimes I don't hear them because I get sleepy. Wendy, what have you been telling your brother? A little imagination goes a long way with boys. Oh, I'm not making it up, Mother. There's a secret land that grown-ups don't understand. There's pirates and Indians fighting and scary crocodiles fighting, where every day is exciting. You never grew up.
Thank you so much for having us. We're always happy to do this performance. It dusts off the cobwebs and gets the nerves a little eased for the big day, and we hope to see all of you guys there. It'll really be
Thank you.
a great night.
That was amazing, you guys.
Thank you,
so much for doing
Corey,
that.
and thank you all of the kids who performed. That was really great. In about 5 years, we want to see you come back as you perform, possibly with Chico High in one of their musicals, because they're awesome, and you look like you're on your path to that.
Or Pee-Pee.
Great job.
I just want to say thank you for coming, and thank you for parents for bringing in. But wow, what an amazing, one of the best I've seen of any level. So kudos to you guys. Great job. Thank you. And we will let you guys go ahead and go if you want, so you don't have to stay. You can get home and do homework and practice those lines. So, as also is our tradition, we have some recognition that we would like to do. So, at this point, I would like to invite Kim Rogers and Heather Cifuentes to come forward.
Good evening. I'm going to pull up a little. Coming. I know. All right. This will come up, but we're honored to be here tonight. When we had the chance to recognize one of our staff members, it was easy to decide who we were going to recognize this time. I've had the honor of knowing Chayla Lewis first as a parent when she was a guidance specialist for my own children, and now as a colleague. Her ability to ease and work with students is amazing. So from my own perspective as a mom, I learned what the toolbox was, and I thanked her for that because I learned how to use some of the tools with my own child. I shared a story at one point a couple years ago when my youngest was having trouble transitioning into a new class. My daughter came home the next day and was elated. I said, "Well, what changed today? You're so excited." And she said, "Well, there was a little note on the corner of my desk from Mrs. Lewis that said she knew I was going to be able to make this year positive." And she was, from then on a great note. So the excitement from my own child's perspective and their friends is unimaginable what she's able to do. And then the examples of her internal, just natural ability and gift to make our students, families, and staff feel special and welcome are endless. It's immediate. You know when Chayla steps onto the campus, she's a magnet for the kids. I don't even have to turn around. I just know she's there because you hear, Mrs. Lewis, will you eat lunch with me? Are you coming to my class? Can I meet with Puppy today? And they're just elated to see her. Chayla radiates calmness and acceptance for all and has this incredible ability to bring calm and peace to anyone in any situation. She goes above and beyond every day and is magical in the way that she can sense and read students and help them navigate tough situations or turn a day around. Although her days are packed full, moving from lesson and classroom to the next, meeting with groups of students, she's never rushed a conversation or tells a student another time. She is graceful and sincere in her relationships with our kids and makes the time to listen and be there wholeheartedly. If you're on campus at lunch, you find Chayla eating in the cafeteria. If it's recess, she's on the playground. If there's a parent running late after school, it's Chayla who's sitting in the office keeping the kid company. Chayla Lewis is such an asset to our whole community, and a few words our staff wanted to share were, "I'm proud to work with Chayla, and I'm happy to celebrate her many years of service. Chayla has a very kind soul. She always makes herself available to those in need. Mrs. Lewis is one of the most supportive, energetic, caring people I have ever known. I love watching Chayla with our students. I find myself watching and listening to Chayla so I can be more like her with our students. Is it a sixth sense or a superpower? It doesn't matter. Chayla Lewis just knows who needs a little extra attention. She walks into a room and immediately knows which of my kids needs additional compassion. Whether it's a sixth sense or superpower, Chayla is a superhero to our students and our staff." Chayla, why don't you come on up? Oh, she's teary. Aw.
Anyway, my name is Kimberly Rogers, and I'm the principal of Sierra View. It's with pleasure to be here tonight to honor Chayla. Sierra View shares Chayla with Parkview. Bummer that we don't have her full time, because as you can see just from what you've heard, I've not had the privilege of working with Chayla until this school year, but what I've learned in the short period of time is how well thought of Chayla is by the Sierra View family. She's very involved school-wide, making sure students' emotional and social needs are met. Chayla has worked at Sierra View for many years. The teachers and staff think the world of her, and here are some of the things that they have to say. Chayla has a very warm demeanor. She is kind-hearted, enthusiastic, caring, and always positive with children and adults. She teaches explicit lessons that addresses social needs on a daily basis. Her delivery is impeccable, entertaining, and the students always have a lesson with a new tool to utilize in their daily life. Am I fiddling with that thing? Chayla is a true listener. She helps people to feel good about themselves and the goodness in the world around them. Chayla brings music into her lessons that is fun and positive and resonates with students. Chayla is nurturing, sweet, and loving woman who helps bring emotions and trust out in children who have difficulty expressing themselves. She conquers difficult subjects at times and helps children identify and project a positive way. It's always a pleasure watching Chayla with our students, especially during puppet play. The students love her. She has been a dedicated staff member at Sierra View for many years and always brings a smile, kind laugh, and best intentions to our school family. Chayla is very deserving of this award, as you've heard, as she has greatly impacted the lives of hundreds of students. That's probably an underestimation. She's been here a long time, and she serves every student in every school. So over the years, she's touched a lot of lives in a positive way. We're blessed to have Chayla as part of the Sierra View team. With that being said, congratulations, Chayla.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi. Can I say something? Oh, okay, only because when Heather told me, I decided I would just like take a few notes and give a little thank you, if that's okay. It's really short, actually. But I did want to say something because I know there are over 1,000 people who work in this district. So I found a second home at Parkview in the late 1990s when my son, Lowen, who's actually here tonight with his partner and my husband, started in the immersion program. And then a couple years later, our younger son, Tivon, also went through the program. And to be hired in the fall of 2001, right after 9/11, meant my kids and I were going to be part of something really special. For them, they got to learn a second language at young ages. And for me, working with Scott Lindstrom and the dedicated team meant learning about being of service, being creative, and nurturing various social and emotional, meant learning about being of service, being creative, and nurturing. And we had various social emotional learning programs that have benefited many students over the years. The building of relationships has been the best gift of all. And I've had experience with children in the classrooms, with friendship groups, and time in the playroom, collaborating with the teachers, principals, and office managers. And and it's been a journey, and my heart is full. I really appreciate many of my principals from the past. So like I said, I know there are more than 1,000 people in this district, and I'm truly honored to be recognized tonight. And I do share this with Sarah, Debbie, Kim, Vicki, Diana, Jen, Ryan, Heather, and Vanessa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chayla.
And next, I'd like to invite up Emily Mullins.
Good evening. Good evening. So first of all, I'm really excited because I have successfully tricked Jennifer Rossovich. She thinks that she is here right now to be giving an informational report to the board on the work of the Green Committee at Hooker Oak School. And So it is an honor to recognize Jennifer Rossovich for the Superintendent's Award. And Jennifer is one of the most amazing, the most humble people that I know. In fact, that's the reason that I had to trick her, because I was afraid that if I told her that she was receiving an award, that she wouldn't be here. She is a first and second grade looping teacher at Hooker Oak School, currently teaching first grade. And I was so excited when I became the principal of Hooker Oak School, knowing that I would have the opportunity to work with her. I had known her in name and reputation for many, many years, and I was very excited to get to know her and to work with her. During my initial meet and greet with the staff in Hooker Oak back in May, Jennifer stayed after to chat, and then I was immediately reminded of how personable she is, how knowledgeable she is about education, and just what an amazing person she is. We were also really excited to make the connection that Jennifer's very first year as a teacher at Hooker Oak School just so happened to be my very last year as a student there. So our paths were actually connected way back in 1989, which was pretty neat. She's been teaching for 31 years, and I have to say I've worked with many, many veteran teachers in my career, but I've seen very few that have that same passion and drive that we see of our teachers who are straight out of the credential program when they've been teaching for 30, 31 years. And Jennifer absolutely 100% still retains that same passion and enthusiasm that we see in our brand new teachers, which I think is, yet she's got this experience and the knowledge of a veteran, and that's such a dynamic combination. Not only does Jennifer beautifully embody the characteristics of Hooker Oak School, she also positively represents the teaching profession as a whole. She's a natural with her students. One of the things I love about her is how she gets down to their level to explain things. She truly respects and values their opinions, and she listens patiently to the 8 million little things that her first graders share each day, because they're all so important, right? When I come into her class, I often find her sitting at the carpet with her students, crisscross applesauce, on their level, explaining a concept. When I come and read to her class, just yesterday, Monday was it? When I come and read to her class, she doesn't use that time for prep work. Instead, she's seated at the carpet with her students alongside, modeling appropriate listening behavior and asking thought-provoking questions. I know that Jennifer must feel stressed at times. We all do. We're in a stressful profession. But you would never know it. She is one of the most calm, collected people I've ever seen. Maybe it's because she is a member of our Green Committee and has been so involved in making our nature center and garden accessible and beautiful places for our students to learn. I had to throw that in there since that's the reason that I tricked you to come here. Jennifer was featured in the August issue of Upgraded Living, which many of you may have seen that article back in August, and I think that is amazing. She's so humble about this, as she is about any recognition. She's always eager to take the spotlight off of her and to shine it onto one of her colleagues. That's just who she is. But tonight, Jennifer, the spotlight is on you. You deserve to be recognized for the incredible teacher and human being that you are. You have made an incredible difference in approximately 775 student lives. That's 31 years times an average of 25 students a year, as well as had a positive influence on every single one of your colleagues, myself included. Congratulations, Jennifer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
And to switch things up a bit, I'd like to invite up Ted Sullivan.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me share for a minute. This is a little slightly different twist. I would like to take a minute and just thank one of those community business partnerships we have that just really helps make things run really smoothly in our district. So with that being said, like Sally McMillan, come on up. Sally owns Music Connection, and this is who we do business with consistently with ordering all of our instruments throughout the school district. And just some of the kudos, I mean, she just does a phenomenal job helping us make sure we're spending every penny down, or every grant dollar down to the last penny with those kinds of things. She solves incredible amounts of problems with us, with orders, and just is a great resource solving all those problems. She fixes things very consistently and quickly and promptly. Everybody's just very complimentary all the time. So this is just one of those examples of everything that happens TK through 12 with instruments in our school district is really funneling through Sally and Music Connection. And we are just overwhelmingly appreciative of it, and just runs smoothly. And if you are watching kids use instruments in our school district, it's about a 98% chance it's funneled through Sally and Music Connection. So we just want to thank her for that, making it run smoothly and keeping everything moving along with our music program TK through 12 in Chico Unified. So thank you very much, Sally. I want to acknowledge you.
Just really quick would say that it has been my joy to be a partner with Chico Unified, and I have my girls in the program, and to watch their elementary school bands and to see all the kids is just really a joy. And I've been doing this since 1994, and I have never seen a better group of music teachers. They are just stellar, absolutely stellar. So we're very fortunate, and thank you for recognizing me.
Thank you, Sally, for
And
all you
thank
do
you.
to help.
And last but by no means least, I'd like to invite up Doug Williams, Chico High School.
Thank you. I got to let the cat out of the bag. I tricked him to come here as well. We're here to present an award to our senior grounds crew, Kevin Jones, and his wife and little kids have been waiting out in the cold, so the trick is over, so we can bring them in. Kevin is extremely shy. He thinks he was here to present on a sprinkler system that we needed to put in. But Kevin, you're going to come up here. And one of the things about Kevin, I can tell you, he never complains, except for today. I did hear that he complained to one of his colleagues that why couldn't they get someone else to go to the board and talk about the irrigation system? So I thought that was perfect. I want to first start off by saying the footprint and the responsibility of taking care of a premier high school, the two high schools in a town, is an extremely large responsibility. And I believe it's a large responsibility for two reasons. First is the actual size of the facility. I think if most people walk Chico State or Butte College or you go somewhere else, and you understand that they have probably an army of grounds people, and our district grounds people and our roaming crew, and of course led by Kevin, are taking care of roughly 40 acres. And on these 40 acres, which are about 115-year-old 40 acres as well, it includes sports facilities, student common areas, outside student eating areas, external building landscape medians, walkways, lawn space, and peripheral landscaping, which also includes some of the precious 80 to 100-year-old trees that are located on the historic Esplanade, and a lot of other beautiful foliage that people have spent time and energy and money over the last 50 years or longer to put in. In addition, I believe that as a community, when you drive down the Esplanade and you look at the front of Chico High School, it's located obviously in a historical spot, and it is a visual representation of our town, the school district, the community, the school board, and just a reflection of our input into education and the lives of our children. And I don't take it for granted that that is a big task, and he does a wonderful job of overseeing all of that. I also think it's an unbelievable task because of the varied duties that one person has. Kevin here takes care of lawns, sprinklers, 80-year-old valves, electrical control boxes, locks. In fact, this is funny. Mr. Kessler and I went out. A solar company was coming to look at our solar panels, and I didn't realize this, but the solar company had a special lock on one of the converters, and Mr. Kessler and I are like, oh man, who are we going to call to get that key for that converter? And of course, Kevin walks out and goes, oh, I have a key to that. Let me open that up right now. So lots of hidden parts to his job. He takes care of spraying for weeds, bugs, fertilizing, all the water issues of a school that's over 100 years old, flooding that takes place in the winter, the dryness that takes place in the heat of the summer. And then lastly is the way that he services our staff, our students, and the comments I received on how well he communicates with a variety of people. Kevin has to work with coaches from a variety of athletic events, from grass events to track events. He also has to work with administrators, district level special projects that I know just show up when he's on the campus that they need to coordinate with him. He works with the athletic director, the principal, the assistant principal, and also outside groups, which include CARD and all of our youth organizations. So he and our facility are a reflection of his work and how they connect. Also, when I'm in the grocery store, I can't tell you, Kevin, how many countless people have come up to me and said, your campus is beautiful. We were there the other day for an event, and it looks better than it's looked in 20 years, 30 years, 15 years, and that does not go unnoticed by myself or other members of the community. And one day he's out there blowing and cleaning off the track for a 40-school meet. He'll mow the lines for 2 baseball games, 2 softball fields. He'll chalk. He'll prep the Lincoln Center the same night for a spring activity. So he truly has a very busy job. Coaches' statements. For my baseball and football coaches, he has a can-do, never-say-no attitude. And if he can't get to something, he actually takes the time to explain why he can't get to it and when he can get to it and how that will fill up their day, make their day easier. Football particular, Mr. Alvister, I think, is here, and the soccer coaches also said he not only is easy to talk to, but when you walk towards him, he doesn't conveniently get in his gator and drive away. He waits for you to get there, and he addresses the situation and prioritizes things in an appropriate manner. My campus supervisors actually came to me when they found out you were going to get this award and said, you know what, he truly does care because he pays attention to the little details. I guess you were fixing a tree the other day, and you noticed a bush was out of line and went all the way back, got a trimming tool, and came back and trimmed that particular bush so it would look good as well. None of those things are going unnoticed. Probably the most impressive was our students who actually know who Kevin is as he's jamming around campus at 100 miles an hour. This is a letter that they wanted me to read to you, sent from our ASB. It says, to one spectacular Panther, Kevin, you always work so hard and take such good care of our home, Chico High. We know that with every day, your dedication sets an example to everyone on the campus, and we are amazed by how you maintain the school and keep it looking and functioning so fantastically. As students, thank you for going above and beyond to help us achieve our goals. Your hard work and commitment to Chico High helps us complete our projects on time and do all the fun activities and events held at Chico High School. Your extraordinary attention to Chico High takes our projects and activities to another level. Your contribution adds so much to our Panther family. We wouldn't be the same without you. I personally would like to say that I'm honored to outline your strengths in front of our board, the superintendent, and within this public forum, because your dedication reflects well on all of the Chico High community, and it is an honor to give you this award, Kevin.
Kevin, is it on? Kevin, I just want to know when they're going to get you the haircut.
This comes from being a principal. That just comes from being gung-ho.
I don't think they are.
Try yours, just tap it. Oh, yours did.
Do we get? Thank you very much, Kevin.
So I'd like to close out by saying I know this takes the first half hour of our board meeting and does so on a regular basis, but that's truly what we're all about, is kids and hearing from our students and our staff that supports them day in and day out and does spectacular things. So thank you for recognizing them, and thank you to our employees and our students who have already left, but for doing such a great job. You are so appreciated. And I will turn it back over to you.
We aren't getting a phone.
Mine seems to be work. No?
Does only one work at a time?
Mine's not on. Oh, I was just hoping that somebody would introduce those beautiful children, but they seem to be.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we do have microphones, correct? All right. Okay, that was great to see all of our honored staff, and they are the most important part of this district, along with the students, of course. Okay, so we are on now to announcements, and I do believe Kathy has an announcement.
Hi, so right now, the League of Women Voters is hosting the first candidate forum, and they're presenting it at Butte College. But it is being videoed, and you can see it on the TV, but it's also going to be live streamed later. So if there's a candidate that you were interested in knowing something about, you can see that. Secondly, on January 18th, the Women's March for Chico 2020 is going to be held in the City Plaza. It will start at 10 a.m. and go through at noon. There are going to be workshops, but they're going to be doing voter registration. As you know, our county has moved to entirely mail ballots, and so many people are very concerned about their mailing ballot versus their residential ballot and how they can register. So there will be people working the tables that can help you make sure that you have your mailing address correct, or if you need to re-register to vote, that you can do that. And the last one I wanted to announce is the census is coming to our county, of course. And we've had a session by one of the national leaders at our annual CSBA, the California School Board Association meetings. And so the League of Women Voters is putting on a forum about the census. Anyone can come, they're invited. And it's going to be at the Masonic Family Center. And it is going to be on Thursday, February the 13th. You're in luck because there's free food. You can show up and eat. And it's at the Chico Masonic Family Center, which is on East Avenue. And that program will have a number of people who have been critically involved in setting up the census for our area. There's a lot of concern that because of all the tragedy and movements around the campfire, that people will not be counted, and that's a critical part for our community. The last point that they made with us very, very strongly is in 2010, the most undercounted groups were babies and children. A baby that's born on the 1st of April gets counted. All these little kids that were here, they get counted. But of course, that means the parents need to recognize that and be involved. And they have encouraged us at CSBA to get all of our educators involved with helping people to understand the census and how it's going to work. So if you have any interest at all, please come to the forum. Again, that is going to be February the 13th at the Chico Masonic Family Lodge, and we have some visual handouts if somebody needed to get a copy. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Is there anyone in the audience? Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin?
Yeah, we're about 5 weeks out from Read Across America, where we celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday. So Sunday, February 23rd. This is a joint effort between CUTA and the Butte County teachers. So it's 10 to 1 at the Card Center. It's free to everybody that shows up. All the kids go home with books. We give out hot dogs and popcorn. And finally, I bring in hot coffee because it's cold. So we've got for the adults. But it's a fun thing. They do face painting, all kinds of activities for the kids. So it's open to the world, and just show up at Card between 10 and 1 and have a good time.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. And I believe I attended that before, and they do actually have bilingual books.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
They have some bilingual books too, which is really a nice treat.
It's a hoot. Photo booth, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, great.
That's great, I've been.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other announcements from the audience? Okay, in that case, we will move on to items from the floor. Are there any people who have want to share something or have questions or comments that are not related to this current agenda? Okay, seeing, yep, you do. Okay.
Hi, Kevin Moretti, President of Chico Unified Teachers Association, and I just wanted to bring to your attention the Schools and Communities First ballot measure. I sent you some information on it that a lot of groups in California are getting behind. It's kind of a reform of Prop 13 that has had some unintended consequences. When that was passed in the 70s, property taxes were about 50% business, 50% homeowner. But due to some loopholes in that on the business corporate side, it's now about 70% homeowners paying the property taxes in California and 30% business and corporations. So it's meant to close some of those loopholes. One, if your business sells and you keep one guy on the board for 1 year, you don't reassess the taxes. So that's what happened with when Disney sold. So a lot of these, it's really affecting, it's not going to affect small businesses or agriculture, but it's going to affect some of those large ones where like Disney sold and didn't get reassessed. So some of that stuff where Budweiser was paying a penny a square foot for their warehousing in LA, things like that that weren't part of the original intention. So I sent you some, we're hoping that the school board can discuss that at some time, perhaps endorse along with everybody else.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin, and we will take that under advisement and see if that will then be able to be put on a future agenda. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else who wants to comment, so we are going to move on to a negotiations update. I'll start with Mr. Hanlon.
Well, due to the long holiday break, we did not meet for negotiations, but we are meeting with CUTA tomorrow and CSCA on Friday, so we'll be meeting shortly.
Okay, Kevin, do you have anything to add?
Well, I do regarding the innovative schedule. We had so we've passed the first step in that. So the first step was for the 2 high schools to vote on whether to go further or not. And if that passed, we would go to the next step, which is tomorrow at the bargaining table. So that passed yesterday. I don't think I sent you guys. I sent everybody in the world the results, but not you all. Sorry about that.
Okay,
But
thank you.
We've passed step 1.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All righty, we will then move on to the consent calendar. Are there any board members who would like to pull items from the consent calendar?
Yes.
Okay, Tom?
I would like to pull item 9.1.1.
Okay. Okay, is there any other one to be pulled? Are there any members of the audience who wanted to pull an item from the consent calendar? Okay, we will entertain a motion for the remainder of the consent calendar.
I move to approve the remainder of this consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Dr. Kaiser, a second by Mr. Lando. All those in favor, we will have a name count.
Lando, aye.
Hovey, aye.
Griffin, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Alrighty, that passes unanimously. We will now take up item 9.1.1.
I would simply ask that this be split into 2 separate items so that did not attend the 12/11 and therefore cannot vote on those minutes.
Okay, so we will vote on item 12 for the 12/11/19 approval of minutes of that meeting, and Mr. Lando will recuse himself as he was not there. Abstain? He will abstain. So all those in favor will have to do a roll count again.
I move 12/11/19 minutes. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Kaiser, a second by Ms. Robinson, and we'll also do a roll call vote since we don't have a member voting.
Kaiser, aye.
Griffin, aye. All righty, that passes. Now we'll entertain a motion for passage of minutes of the special board meeting of 12/18/19.
Approval of 12/18/19.
Second.
Okay. We will have another roll call vote.
Kaiser, aye.
Griffin, aye.
Lando, aye.
Okay, that also passes then. So much for the consent calendar. Okay, moving now to business services. The first item under consideration is approval of accounts payable warrants, and that would be Ms. Kruger. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, that was part of the consent calendar. I messed up on that. That was a 3-page consent calendar. Okay, this is a discussion action item under educational services, the Charter Review Committee recommendation for Forest Ranch Charter School, and that would be Ms. Keene.
Good evening. Tonight is the final piece of the renewal process for the Forest Ranch Charter School. The Chico Unified Educational Services team has reviewed the petition thoroughly, and at this time I want to thank my Ed Services colleagues for their time and attention to this renewal petition with me. I also want to express my thanks to the Director of Forest Ranch Charter School, Christian Morasco, her school staff, and the board members of the Forest Ranch Charter School for preparing an organized and thorough renewal petition. A written report of our renewal petition has been provided to the Chico Unified School District board members. Based on our review of the renewal petition, the Educational Services team is in support of the Forest Ranch Charter School renewal. At this time, I'd like to invite the school's director, Christian Morasco, to join me for any questions that you might have for her.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're just waiting for questions. All right, Dr. Kaiser.
So Tina and her group's review was quite thorough and very, very positive. My concern is just the simple number count of 130. I'm sure that's got you guys worried as well. No?
Concern as well. We are slowly increasing, and with the current status of Butte County, time will tell. I don't know if that's going to be positive or negative. We're waiting to see. So far, we have been able to, despite a budget that projects a deficit, we've been able to have an excess each year, so we always end up pulling through, and I'm sure we will again this year. It is more challenging with fewer students. We would be in a better position with anywhere between 140 and 150. Half our students do come up from Chico, and we rely heavily on those students. So we're just working to keep afloat. I think right now, though, if we can get that 130, 135, we're stable for the next few years, and then we'll continue to try to increase just a little bit to pad our numbers so that economically it's a little bit easier for us.
Mm-hmm. I just appreciate that it is a struggle, some of it outside your control or maybe much of it, but wanted to make sure that you are paying attention, so that's good.
We talk about that budget every board meeting, and we talk about marketing and recruitment every board meeting. You know, we're a little bit up a mountain, and you know, we're continuing to thrive, but it's a little bit more work with that. Thank you.
Any other? Okay, there appears to be no other question to come forward. And so I will ask if there is a motion.
I'll move to pass the Charter Review Committee's recommendation to renew Forest Rancher Charter School.
I'd like to second. Oh.
Tie. No, go ahead. Okay, I got Linda first, so so Linda seconded. And is this a 5-year?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make it clear then this is to have a 5-year approval. All righty, so we will have just a regular vote. I believe. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, congratulations, you're renewed again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep doing the wonderful things that you're doing up there.
Okay, the next item is also one that Tina is going to address, and it has to do with Senate Bill 1104, pupil safety regarding human trafficking prevention. Yeah, oh, feel free. If yes, go back out in the cold. Thank you for coming and showing your support. Right. Whenever you're ready.
This is an informational item to come to you. As of January 1st, 2020, the Senate Bill 1104 requires that school districts provide information to parents regarding human trafficking. So we have adhered to that. Again, informational. It's quite a serious topic, and frankly, I learned a lot in this piece of education myself. So we'll continue to watch it and of course, follow anything that comes down the pike for more notice to parents, guardians, and any other training that comes with that.
Yeah, it is a very important topic. You know, it's shocking that this happens in our community, and you know, most people, you know, they don't see it, but it is quite prevalent. I know we had a professor from Chico State who specializes in this, and she does presentations, and it just is really shocking to hear the reports that she has. Yeah, Kathy.
So Chico State actually had a student group that was leading workshops for a number of years and bringing in nationally recognized speakers, a number of whom were survivors of trafficking. And in fact, Chico has a fairly significant number of victims or former victims. So my concern was just that we've had our staff and our teachers attend those workshops, and I was a little bit concerned that we were using something so far away. I'm wanting to make sure that we make our teachers and our staff feel very comfortable that they could access locally, because there is a special legal service in Sacramento for many of the immigrant populations that are housed there, but also there's an officer in Chico. So we just want to make sure that they know there is access close at hand, you know. But I appreciate that we are acting on this. That's good. Thank you.
Yes. Eileen?
Tina, yes, thank you. I attended one of the workshops at CSBA on this issue, and one of the most striking things to me, outside of the most likely targeted victims that are mentioned in the materials that's included in our agenda, was the number of kids who aren't in those categories, just regular, ordinary, going to school kids, and how good the people that make friends with and begin to groom these students are. And that what they found was one of the most effective tools, not only as making parents aware that this is a problem and how to deal with it, but actually educating the students themselves in the schools that this may happen to you. Look for these signs. Listen to the buzzwords of people that maybe get contact with you online or with friends or anything, that it's that little bit of information that becomes the little voice on your shoulder when something weird is going on, to get the student to recognize that, ooh, wait a minute, this is one of the things that they talked about leading to trouble. And so, I don't know how much we do in the way of informing our students directly. But I think that's important, not only get the information to staff and parents, but students that's how we prevent stuff, is we give the students the information so that they can make informed decisions to protect themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eileen. Is there, Kelly, do you know, is there an effort to get, because I thought the materials were just really excellent, because they really showed about who is targeted, how they're targeted, and there's so many ways that kids are vulnerable to people who are either grooming them or taking advantage of a situation that they see a vulnerability. So
This is actually multi-phase legislation, so we're starting off, the first part is that we do have to make the information available to parents. We then have an obligation to do training of staff, and then it is to be integrated into curriculum.
Right.
So it is something that is coming to us from a state level on down, but obviously something that we want our kids to be aware of as well.
Right, excellent. Okay, thank you, Tina. Okay, next up is information about the California State Dashboard results, and Mr. Karras. And et cetera, et al.
As usual, I bring the whole team with me up there. Yeah, good evening. I'm here to present to you the Fall 2019 California State School Dashboard for Chico Unified. That was released at the beginning of December and made public upon release. So this data has been available for about a month. We just haven't had a board meeting yet. So tonight I'll be going over changes to the dashboard indicators and the way they're calculated for fall of 19 from previous years.
I need to see it on that, because my laptop just cut me off.
It's not on the laptop.
Yeah, we didn't get a link. No, it cut me off.
Do you want to use my, or you've got a hard, oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
There we go. So I'll be going over changes to the way the indicators are calculated, review our results, and then talk about the state and federal accountability that's tied to these results, because these are the numbers and the indicators that we fall under accountability measures for, as opposed to the data that I presented in November that's more informational only for the public and for our usage. So first of all, the academic indicator for English and language arts and math now includes the California alternate. In the past, we've given that for a few years now, but this is the first time we are held accountable for participation rate and results. So they're all rolled in with our Smarter Balance scores. The suspension rate indicator did not actually have any calculation changes, but there was a change to CalPADS rules, which is where we report all of our data into the state system. And the way we were reporting, we're held accountable for more of our suspensions than we have been in the past, in particular for our students with disabilities subgroup. So you'll see, as expected, we increase that a little bit. I'll talk about that in a bit. The English Learner Progress Indicator has been a work in progress over the past few years. This year we are given a status only, so we don't get a color yet. And the graduation rate indicator now includes a 5-year graduation rate. So students that graduate in 5 years are rolled in with the 4-year graduates as well.
So I had asked about the dropout rate for our 11th and 12th graders, where we don't know necessarily where they go in graduation. So would that help us with understanding the impact of the campfire on our graduation rate when we have that kind of a time framework?
This would be predominantly students with disabilities that would fall under the 5-year
The
graduation.
graduation rate? Why just students with disabilities?
Well, any student, but primarily those. Yeah, so students that have a second, essentially what is the second 12th grade year now.
Most of our students graduate in 4 years. These would be the students that take 5 years to graduate. And most of our students, we do have some in alt ed that do a 5th year, but most of them are special ed students.
And as we look at dashboard data, when here, the state will go back and recalculate the previous year's data for when they measure growth. Okay, I'm going to dig into our dashboard right now, and I'm going to dig into some pictures that I took of the dashboard because I didn't want to have to trust the speed of the internet, et cetera. So, but the dashboard is publicly available at the link right here, and I will share this with you following my presentation via email, but it is publicly available. So the dashboard is meant to give the public a very simple look at how a district or a site is doing. So this is the most basic look that we receive. And what you see here is a different look than we've had in the past. Okay, now we're looking at a dial where red is the lowest achievement and blue is the highest. Okay, so I'm just going to run through these real quick and get into some more details later. Chronic absenteeism and suspension rate, we were orange. We got no color for English learner progress. Grad rate was green. College and career readiness was green. ELA was green, and math, as we talked about at the board meeting in November, was yellow. We just kind of maintained where we were. The other indicators there are the indicators that we brought to the board in October, where the Ed Services team is evaluating our progress on rubrics provided by the state, on basics, teachers, instructional materials, et cetera, standards implementation, parent and family engagement, local climate survey, and access to a broad course of study. So that's all our self-evaluation. And really, if we perform that self-evaluation, we meet the standard. So the way the colors, and I realize this is very small, and that's okay for my purposes right now, but I wanted to give you an example of how the colors are arrived at, okay? There's 2 factors that go into what color we get in any one indicator. Number 1, we get a status, so that's how we are doing regardless of our growth or drop in a certain area. We get a status. That's down the vertical axis here. We also get a change based on, did we increase, did we decrease, did we maintain? That's given along the horizontal axis. So in this case right here, I'm going to move my cursor around here. This is English Language Arts, just as an example. Chico Unified, all students had a medium status, but we increased. So we went up, our distance from standard increased, so we scored a green. Okay, so each indicator on the dashboard has a 5x5 chart like this that will show districts, did you grow or did you not? Because the reality is we write our goals based on the change, not the status, because we want to see movement regardless of where we are. That's increased significantly. That means with the distance from standard and for language arts increased more than 15 points. And of course, it's different for every indicator. And we actually had 2 or more races increased significantly, and our homeless population increased significantly in English language arts. So I just wanted to show you this as an example of how the colors are arrived at. As we get into more details, we didn't see a lot of surprises. As we look at, this is our academic measures, we saw English language arts increase just like we thought, 8.1 points, which is far ahead of the state growth this year. We saw math maintain. We went up 0.2 distance from standard, so we talked about that in depth in November. We are at a medium status for English learner progress. Like I said, we don't get a color yet. And we are a green for college and career, which actually, last year we were blue, but because 2 years ago we increased significantly according to the state, and last year we just increased. So really that's what we're after when we write our LCAP goals. We want to increase that. For academic engagement, we have chronic absenteeism, and that was an orange. That was a yellow last year, and it increased 0.6%. We had the fire last year, which was a significant disruption, and that's what we expected would happen. Our grad rate maintained at a high level at 91.5%. For the conditions and climate area, that's our suspension rate, and we did move from yellow to orange. We did see an increase, anecdotally, an increase of suspendable behaviors, but we also had the CalPADS rule change that I mentioned earlier that especially affected our students with disabilities, and that'll come out later in the presentation. So everything I just showed you is really kind of meant for public consumption, to give the public a quick view at a school district or site. What we look at really internally is student groups and how student groups are doing on each of the indicators. So when we look across this student group report, it'll give, on the vertical axis, it will give us all the student groups, both race, ethnicity, and demographic student groups, and then the indicators across the top. So what this is meant to be is kind of like a heat map. The red means that's a problem area. The green and the blue means everything's going great, okay? So we do see some areas, and really what we do is we look on the rows for student groups. So we see areas of need, which we'll talk about later, with our foster youth, with the reds, students with disabilities, and the African American student groups. We're especially proud of socioeconomically disadvantaged students with a green in grad rate and college and career readiness, as well as all students are green in both those areas. So general areas of strength that we see is the language arts increase that we've been talking about since June. College and career continues to increase. Grad rate is maintained at a high status. And our foster youth chronic absenteeism declined in the midst of the campfire. When we saw everybody else going up, we saw our foster youth declining. Okay, so areas of need that we identified. The one area of need that's not called out in the state and federal accountability that I'm about to go over is math. And we talked at length about that, so I have Ed Services here to talk about some things that we've been putting in place regarding math improvement.
So I actually want to throw some kudos to Tim too, because when Tim says we weren't surprised, it means he's crunched numbers behind the scenes, and we are knowing where we stand middle of May, going into June. So we were able to walk in starting in August with a plan in place to start doing something specifically about those areas that we're not comfortable with also. So it's, those things are happening because of the work Tim's doing behind the scenes. But with math in particular, we're not doing better than that. So we did some things very specific in elementary world with it. Some of the tests that we give, we actually shifted. So these are some of the common assessments that every teacher in 3rd through 4th and 5th are giving now. we give something called an IAB. It is a mini version of the state test, basically. And it was a DLC decision. The District Leadership Council said we should shift and everybody be giving a couple of those IABs over the course of the year. So they're getting a couple trial runs with state kind of comparable practice tests, and teachers get actionable information from it also, and it kind of looks and helps them understand where their students are. But the kids are getting a trial run with something that looks exactly like what they're going to see in May when they take the state test. So that was a big change for us. A couple other things we did as well. We held a series of professional development sessions. We invited every 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teacher in the district in for a half-day session, and we just went through the math standards. If you've never really looked at them, they are very complex and cumbersome. The state did not make it easy to understand what you should be targeting and what standards look like and how they're put together. So we took a half day with every teacher and really walked through that with them, and I asked almost every teacher in the session, was that worth 2 hours? 100% of them said absolutely. They just felt like they had a much better grasp of what was happening with it and felt like they knew what to target and kind of what to look at and focus on with those things. And the last thing we did was we have a lot of kind of support documentation on our website in the staff room, kind of mini practice tests, support materials, et cetera, et cetera. One of the bits of feedback we got was it's hard to access it. So we had Carol Sylvester did a great job behind the scenes organizing all that information, and I'd be happy to show it to you at some point too. It's all color coordinated, matched up to which standard it is, and it is incredibly teacher friendly and useful now, and that was part of the training we did with them also, was to have them look at that and walk through it. So they all just said, oh my gosh, this is so accessible and usable now. The last thing we're doing, every Friday, we send out a question of the week, so teachers get a couple math aligned questions they're gonna see that are pulled out of those IEBs like that. So every Friday they incorporate that into the next week. So it's almost like a metacognitive walkthrough processing of like, hey boys and girls, this is something we're gonna see in May. Let's walk through this together and kind of allow them to look at it and understand what's happening with it with math. So we're happy with those changes thus far. We'll see what happens when state testing happens.
So do you think the teachers can't, that's okay, John. Could you think the teachers feel comfortable talking math with each other so they could actually help the conceptual framing of their students?
I think for elementary, Kathy, shifting where everybody's given those IEBs, so they're very much in sync with it, and that's what a lot of the grade levels are using as their kind of their PLC, their common grade level discussion items now. It's helped immensely, just the discussion is happening and the awareness and the comfort with it as well.
Going back to the conversation we had in the fall about the strength of content knowledge, when you made that comment in that special board workshop about content knowledge, we all kind of looked around, started thinking about what is the culture of math in Chico Unified.
I hate math.
So that's a dilemma, right? That's a huge one. And there are two pieces to that culture. There's the system culture, right? There's what do we do from a system perspective. And then there's the idea of we may not have the great system, we also have to talk about practice and the human side of it. We have a culture of ELA. It's well established. It's much easier to have a culture of ELA TK-12 because you have grade level ELA. But after 5th grade, well, in Chico Unified, mainly after 8th grade, you don't have grade level math anymore. And so we have juniors taking a test, trying to answer questions, sometimes 2 years removed.
Yes.
Right? So that's a huge dilemma. There's some hurdles there, but we have to start at the secondary level anyway with the conversation about, is it system or is it a human issue, human hurdle? And we are stealing some of the elementary ideas in terms of practice tests, unpacking the standards. We queried our DLC, secondary DLC math teachers and asked them, when was the last time you had a site-wide unpacking of a new standard in math? So having those conversations now, those are just words, we understand that right now, but we have to start somewhere. We have to really consider that 9th through 12th grade system. One of the elements of that conversation is grading policy. And how are we holding kids accountable every day, not just for, during IABs or midterm assessments.
I think also that for kids to understand that math matters, after school, after they leave school in their everyday lives. That's a really critical thing because a lot of kids, besides I hate math, they just think it doesn't matter. Why would I need it? I, I'm thrilled that my 6-year-old thinks math is fun, likes to do it, run off the numbers, you know. But we don't see that sense of fun and play and utility a lot of times in kids once they get out of the thing, oh, this is something I have to take, and why would I need it, and I'll never use it. And there are math teachers who walk in and say, you'll never use this, but at that point, they shut off, you know?
And that's the culture.
Yeah.
That's the culture of ELA. We have literacy, attempting to embed literacy across all disciplines.
Good.
We do the same thing.
Julie, you never use math, right?
All right. To the dashboard. First of all, under LCFF, so the state accountability, what that is called is differentiated assistance, and that is administered through county offices of ed, and it addresses the student group data that I was showing earlier. Okay. So for a district to fall into differentiated assistance, they need to have one or more student groups with 2 or more reds for any indicator. Okay, so a red in suspension rate and a red in chronic absenteeism for a student group puts the district in differentiated assistance, where the county comes in and works with that district. Just a little aside, ELA and math, so English language arts and math, count as one indicator. So if a student group has 2 reds, or one is orange and one is red, that counts as a red. So for this year, we've fallen into differentiated assistance for the following student groups: foster youth for suspension rate and academic indicator, students with disabilities for suspension rate and the academic indicator. There's 1 red and 1 orange. The orange was an ELA, and we're very proud of that movement with that student group. And the African American student group for chronic absenteeism and suspension rate. So again, I have my Ed Services colleagues behind me ready to talk about actions that have been working on since the very beginning of the year. So we're going to start with TED and foster youth.
And to target and just be aware of and focus some energy on our foster youth. One of them, we held a multi-agency meeting back in the fall, and it was very eye-opening for us just to kind of understand the foster system, children's services, UK Office of Ed folks, different foster agencies were there. So it was a great Q&A, and I walked away with a whole different understanding of the whole system, to be honest with it. And it was interesting to watch the dynamics between the different agencies also. So great starting point for us. We took away some of those things, though. In particular, Children's Services now shares a bit more information with us that we didn't have prior to this. So we get kind of bi-monthly updates with who our foster students are, contact information, which we didn't have necessarily before. We've got lists generated now, and our target case managers are all very specifically focused on those lists as far as looking at attendance, truancy kinds of things with those students, and they've been kind of charged with staying in contact with them, making sure they're staying in touch, helping them solve any of those issues that are having them miss school consistently or getting away with those kinds of things. Another one, these multi-agencies, they have CFT meetings, multi-agency meetings, looking at who the foster students are and what's going on with them. We actually get invited to those now, and we have a rep go to every one of those meetings from the school site, which is, we've never done anything like that before. So when I happened to attend, it was very, I felt appreciated. They actually took the input from the schools end and actually made some changes with the recommendations that was happening with that students that were in this foster situation. Last thing we've done, we actually applied for a grant. Jay and I went down to a foster symposium down in Sacramento last year, and we talked to a whole bunch of different districts, and the one thing that the districts that were not in red status all had in common, there were only about 2 or 3 of them, I think, of the whole group that were in orange status, and they all had a specifically hired and designated foster kind of representative that kind of worked throughout the whole district, connecting with those students, going to their IEPs, checking with suspension incidences, et cetera, et cetera. And that was just really the person that kind of held it all together. So we've applied for a grant. We're hopeful. We should be hearing next week. Sometime in January is kind of what Liz Metzger has kind of told us we have to look for with that.
There's an organization that has 13 university sites across the nation working particularly with foster kids. And they run a 4-week summer event with the kids, and then once a month, they also have a workshop. Sac State just got that grant. They're starting their program. So that's another resource that once they get their situation moving, we might be able to also access that.
More, Kathy, about it if you
And-
got some contact.
And
Yeah.
Chico State and Butte College were both at the meeting that we held.
Good, good.
So one other little thing we did, we actually started off our leadership meeting at the beginning of the year, and we took a picture of every foster student who had enrolled in our district, and we put them up there student by student, and we actually quizzed each principal. Do you know who this child is? We didn't put a name or anything with it, so we wanted to make sure they knew who we were talking about specifically also. And it was impressive. They really knew who their kids were in foster status situations, and could name them, knew grade, knew which teacher they had last year, all those kinds of things like that. So we're just keeping it right in the forefront and staying connected with them.
Ted, yeah, I appreciate that School Ties with Butte County Office of Education is working with social services to get a designated school, what the heck are we called? Surrogate parent school liaison type person. I went through the training several years ago.
CASA worker? Not quite.
It's not CASA. It's,
So, yeah, that's a program that we've had in place for quite a while, and we deal with a lot of it, especially the foster families have the same need. And so the South of Butte County does the trainings of surrogate parents
Right.
in order to meet those needs of students that don't have ed right holders.
ed rights, yes.
And so we work directly with the South when we need one assigned, and then we have a list of trained surrogates.
Yeah, well, I was reached out to this last week because we do have a student at Pleasant Valley that didn't have an advocate assigned, and I'm, happy to volunteer. And the importance, I think, of having someone outside of the system available for that student for support is pretty important. So I'm looking forward to helping out with this student.
And just real quick, I think, Liz, I want to give you your due. I believe you gave me the contact number of the Butte College person.
Right, and that was my job for 7 years, was handling foster care licensing and recruitment and training of foster parents, and also 9 years as a CASA. So I'm pretty familiar with the system and how it works. And the Butte College Foster Parent Training Program is the program that trains all foster parents. They have to complete training there. So my suggestion was to have a liaison with Kathy Lovelace, who is the director of that program, and even having somebody, maybe Ted, maybe someone else, go there when they have a training and just give a talk for a half hour about the importance of attendance, since chronic absenteeism is a problem, with going to different meetings at the school regarding behaviors, coming up with the behavior plans and those kind of things. So, but that's the source, is connecting with those foster parents, because I think that was the problem, is connecting with them. But yes, Kathy Lovelace is the person at that training program.
Yeah, I spent about an hour with her on the phone, and she gave me a lot of information and contact information for us to work with them, including our high schools that are knowing that kids are foster kids that are going on to college, so they have a connection right away for Butte College for them. She was a great resource for us, and we will continue to use her.
Yeah, and the program through BCOE that, is it Megan Malloy is running, is also one which is providing mentors for the foster youth, and that's a valuable program. So there's a lot of ways to try to impact that, and I think we can do that.
Yeah, and Megan was at our meeting that we had at our office too, so we are in contact with her a lot with other things too, but she was there to give us a lot of information.
But it
She's a
sounds
good
like,
person.
Ted, you're doing a really great job connecting with them and your whole team, because, yeah, it's a really difficult population, and it moves around a lot. it moves around a lot, and you know, just the disruption of those kids changing placements all the time and finding out where are they and what's happening with them, and it's an uphill battle. So I really appreciate all your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you, Special Education. I want to start first by saying happy birthday to my January compadres, Linda and Kevin. Yeah. Oh, and Tom. Happy birthday, Tom. Sorry I missed you. Welcome to the January Club. Nope, still not. Whenever we have special ed meetings and IEPs, we always like to start with the positive. So I am going to highlight the positive that Tim mentioned it also. The special education group in California in general is in academic areas, ELA, red. We've been red or at the bottom. Granted, we do now do colors. Even prior to that, we were always at the bottom. To have that change from red to orange, have that growth, has been pretty amazing, and I'm proud of our teachers for what they've done with students in ELA. And like general ed, those things that they've implemented in general ed, because that impacts our students also, but also in special ed ELA classes. We've been focusing on ELA more, and now we are going to be shifting to math just like general ed is our focus. For ELA, how we got that growth, besides the general ed focuses that have happened, is that we did adopt 5 years ago now specific intervention curriculum for all of our learning centers at the elementary level. We had all the teachers trained. Dana, my coordinator, does job-alike meetings with all the mild mods, and then Gina does job-alike meetings with all the mod severe teachers, and they have a real focus on curriculum and data. And Tim also supports them in gathering data and presents that to them so that they can track the growth. We've also been trained in some of the systems that general ed uses, and they weren't really using it as effectively, like Illuminate, so that they can see the growth over time of their students. So bringing them along and following what general ed is doing and giving them the intervention tools has created that change. And so that's what we're doing with math. Last year, we adopted math intervention curriculum for the learning centers, and we've done training. We allowed iReady to go up to the high school level in a couple math classes. And we're still judging whether that's as effective as it could be or not. All of the mild, moderate students are now included in any common assessments. They're not set aside or said, they can't do it. They can do it, and they are doing it. We've looked at report cards and how we're looking at the standards-based growth of special ed students, and we're measuring that growth now in ways that the teachers can use that information and adapt their instruction to meet the students' needs. And so that's what we're doing to move math up. The discipline suspension rate, they changed the calculation methods. I don't know if you talked about that. Did you talk about that, the change in the calculation?
Yeah, in a nutshell, the CalPADS rule that I was referencing earlier, for the most part, affected our students with disabilities student group because they needed an extra field that often wasn't filled out because it wasn't required. And therefore, some of our suspensions were not counted in the dashboard because of that rule. So the reality is our students with disabilities suspension rate had been artificially low because of that, and that was corrected last year. And so I'm looking at this more as like a new baseline, essentially.
So knowing that this data is probably more accurate now, because we were in the blue last year, so this looks like a huge drop and change. I don't know if it truly in reality is that much of a change, but we have data now that we can really look at. So what we've been doing in the area of discipline is we're doing site by site, those sites that have the higher behavior concerns. Jim had been leading a group on some of the discipline issues that were impacting schools. And so now we've followed that and looked at some of the schools that have the higher needs, those classes that might be a little bit more challenging on the campus. And we've paired with a BCBA, and then Dana and Gina, again, they go into a site, They have the BCBA, that's a board certified behavior analyst. They go in and give a training on behaviors, and then they talk about what that site needs, and then they give training on intervention strategies for that site, specific to that site. We've done 8 schools now, and it's been very well received. We just started now that we are actually going to do an ongoing training with those sites. Once they're trained, they're going to pick a student or two, and they're really going to do a case study with that student and see how they can shift that out to other students within their site. And what's nice about this is it really isn't costing us anything, because the BCBAs through the regional unions in SALPA, right now, those are provided to us. I am going to be looking for ways to make that ongoing as we move ahead. We're also supporting sites in discipline interventions and other ways to look at social, emotional, and behavioral strategies that can occur instead of suspensions. We all know we want our students to be safe and the students themselves to be safe. And so sometimes that is a strategy, but also sometimes they just didn't have a tool in their understanding of what they could do to change what the students knew about the behaviors they were displaying. So we're really looking at what can be done to help students understand why they're acting out and to reach out in more appropriate manners, but also to help staff understand when they're doing this. They may have been up all night listening to a family fight. They may be a foster child that's also special ed that just got pulled out of a house at 2 a.m., dropped in another house and said, yep, you have to go to school still. So we're doing a lot of things to look at what is happening with students and why their behaviors and how we can intervene other than suspensions.
So I want to just give an update about the initiative we've been focusing on. So just to remind everyone, we talked about the chronic absenteeism and suspension rate for African Americans in the fall. And we all know it's a national issue, but that really doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is that we have a student group in Chico Unified that's struggling. So Tim and I did some deeper data diving and found out that specifically our 9th and 10th grade male African Americans are struggling the most. We have other groups within that student group that are struggling, but we decided we needed to really focus on a group within the group to try to grow at some strength, academic strength within that group. So as we've discussed before, Chico State has a Men of Color chapter. It's a leadership class, essentially, and students within that chapter have preferential treatment when it comes to registration. They receive a laptop, they get a very small scholarship, but they have to earn that by mentoring other younger African American students. So Chico State has this program tied to San Juan Unified and Sacramento Unified, but not to Chico Unified. We were. So I want to update you. We've talked about this a little bit before, but as of right now, we have 40 kids, roughly 40 kids from Chico High, older students who hopefully will influence the 9th and 10th graders that I already talked about, and a little over 20 kids at PV who are going to be meeting monthly. We're building a cohort at Fairview. We meet on the 22nd with some kids there. Basically, we're going to meet once a month. The Chico State Men of Color chapter will come to the school, meet with the kids, talk about their experiences. Obviously, as a 6'7" blue-eyed white guy, right, I can't relate to those kids. I can't try to validate their story when I haven't lived it. So having these kids come over from Chico State and talk about those experiences is a first step. Most excitedly, once a month also, all 3 schools groups are going to go to Chico State. Right? PV, not Sierraview, Pleasant Valley. Yeah. Fairview. Right, yeah. And so I don't know the content yet of those meetings at Chico State will, what they're going to contain. Malcolm McLemore from the Cross-Cultural Leadership Center at Chico State will be driving those conversations. I'm cautiously exhilarated, right? Because I don't want to show anybody how excited I am, because I want to do it well, and then we can hopefully have the mentoring cascade from Chico State to our high school kids, to our junior high kids, to our elementary kids. And just anecdotally, I was refereeing a basketball game last night with an African American in the community, and he also works for Youth for Change. And he said, hey, I was talking to a buddy of mine about this thing that's going on with mentoring, and I want to get involved in that. So the African American community is extremely tight, and now we know they're talking about it. So we're not invisible. Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
I just want to commend John and Jay for taking this on. I mean, it's something that we've wanted to do and talked about and just didn't know how to get moving forward. And, honestly, they didn't either, but they found out a way to do it. And it is it's so exciting. We will see how it plays out, but I can't see a bad ending to this. So thank you, John and Jay.
And John, how many did you have at your first meeting at Chico High?
I have some male friends. I'll talk to them too. Sports is really critical usually.
Okay, so you just got a rundown on the 3 student groups for which Chico Unified falls into differentiated assistance for. We have started working with the county. We had our first meeting with them last week, kind of the kickoff for differentiated assistance. We'll have a series of 4 meetings, both at the county office and at Chico Unified. It'll primarily be Ed Services. Kelly will be at least a couple of them. We'll bring in other team members as needed, but basically what we're doing is making an improvement plan. And for me, sitting in that meeting with the county, talking about these student groups and hearing, and we told the county what we just told you, and it feels good to be acting on it far in advance of any kind of accountability measures from the state. So now I'm going to dive into accountability based on the dashboard, and this is through ESSA. So this is the accountability measures from the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so the first, and this is only for sites. Districts can only fall under differentiated assistance, but sites can fall in under one of 2 categories, the first of which is comprehensive support and improvement. So you'll hear CSI. This is going to get real alphabet soupy. So CSI is only for Title I sites, first of all. There is funding attached to that. How much is unclear at this point. It is administered through the LEA, so we would administer CSI should one of our sites fall into that. And it's for the all students, quote unquote, student group only. So it's looking at the site level, not the student group level. And it's based on results of a single year. It's really hard to fall into CSI. A site has to be all red or all red and orange, etc. So it's really difficult. We don't have any sites that fall into CSI. That's really good news. Yeah. So that's CSI. That's Title I only, looking at all students at a site. The next one is called Targeted Support and Improvement, or TSI, and that applies to every site regardless of Title I status. Okay? There's no funding attached. It's again administered through LEA, so we would work with our sites should they fall into this. And it's only looking at student groups, not the all students school site-wide. It's looking at specific groups. So and it's looking at student groups over 2 consecutive years. So if a student group has all red or all red and orange, et cetera, for 2 or more straight consecutive years, they would fall under TSI. Okay. Currently, I'm doing this mostly as a educational piece for you because speaking for Tina and I first got into this world last year with the ESSA accountability, and takes a while to wrap your head around it. We currently don't have any data coming from the state telling us for sure who's in TSI or CSI. I can tell you 100% for sure, no, there's no CSI. We're waiting on the TSI piece. Okay. And this is my last slide, but I wanted to conclude by saying, sorry to end with the negative accountability. There are some positives there in that we are reacting to this data, but there's a lot to celebrate here. In particular, our growth in English language arts. Across the board, our grad rates remain high and are maintaining. Our college and career indicator remains high. And really that college and career indicator, I've said this before, it takes into account so many factors, our CTE, AP testing, smarter balance testing, A to G completions, all those things, all those factors that get kids ready. It's the most comprehensive measure, and we're doing quite well with it. So, any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate all that information. Alrighty, we will be moving on now to Kevin, it looks like.
Yes, I'm going to ask John Carver, Darcy Bregman to come up. They're going to give you a little brief presentation. John does a really good job of not spending his budget. And one of the goals was to do a better job with our work order system, from communication from people who were putting in requests all the way through the communication side. So John was tasked with putting in a new work order system, and they're here to present you with what they're going to be implementing. We're pretty proud of it.
Okay, this is about the new work order system.
Good evening, Board. So excited you get to see me today.
It's always good to see you.
And this is Ms. Darcy.
Yes.
Coordinator. So basically, years ago, we had an old antiquated work order system that we really couldn't track anything. The school site, we had 3 or 4 people at the school site that could put in a work order. It would come through, we would approve it, go out and do the job, and then close the work order. Once a year, we'd go in and try to find reports, and basically the report would tell us how many work orders we did. So antiquated, we started looking about 4 or 5 years ago for a different avenue and a different work order system. Did not see anything that we liked, talked with IT and piggybacked on the IT work order system. That's the one we're currently using now. It has done great for us, but it's not what we actually need. So we found Asset Essentials, and the first word is assets. Everything in our buildings, from our students, our teachers, our employees, is our asset. And what we want to do is be able to track that. So once we get it up and running, which is coming quickly in about first week of February, hopefully we're going to launch it, but we'll be able to track how many times we've seen that heater, the AC unit, that broken window, the sink, the plumbing, the toilets, everything, we'll be able to track that, which will help me in the future, instead of trying to sit down and explain to Kevin, yes, I need to spend this money, but I want to do it wisely. And be able to track the older versus the newer, which ones are that we keep having repeat calls on, instead of throwing money at that, get rid of it, put a new one in, and continue. But the greatest part about this is anyone on the Active Directory that works for Pupil Unified can put in a work order. So that's going to help me communicate with the sites easier and better. So if Because so many times, if they're in instruction,
Right,
they don't want
can't
to go in
bother.
and interrupt. And a lot of times the teachers don't know it's been done, so they put in another work order, or they go to the office, and so on. So this way, everyone will be alerted every step of the way.
Hi, good evening, Board. I'm just going to take a quick little about that they're currently using the IT's work order system. Currently, a site designee, which is usually the office manager, submits the work order. A teacher has a problem, they come and tell the office manager. Principal usually is not aware that anything's gone on because there's no approval process later in there. It comes straight to us. If we have to do any kind of reporting, like what John was talking about, we have to go to IT and ask them to generate the report for us. We don't have the ability to go in and create custom reports. And we have no way to track the assets that John was talking about. So we decided that some of the important things that we wanted to look for were asset tracking, communication, and then putting in some layers of approval. So our new work order system is, as John said, Asset Essentials, which is part of the Dude Solutions process, which you've heard of Dude Solutions because that's part of what Bill Morgan uses for his use of facilities. So what's going to happen now, what we'd like to happen, what we're working to have happen is a staff member notices that there's a problem. They put in a work order. The work order, like John said, is all Active Directory. They register to a site, and they actually, when they put it in, and I'll show you this in a little bit here, they actually drill down to what room they're in. So we can get real specific, because a lot of times we get things that are very vague. It's leaking again. Okay. So then the principal or the assistant principal is going to have the opportunity to look at that and review it and approve it, just like they do their escape orders, requisitions and stuff. It's a really quick, simple approval process. It also gives them the chance to look at something and go, wow, I didn't realize that was a problem. Or, no, I don't think chartreuse paint is really a good idea. So then once they approve it, if they deny it, the teacher gets a note back saying, mine's denied. They have an opportunity to put a note in on it. Then the work order will then come into the M&O queue, where then we have the approval process. And then we assign it to a maintenance worker, and all along the way, the teacher is getting an email, or originator is getting an email saying, where's that? So the staff member is going to see a very simple form that's going to just ask them to describe the problem, tell them where it's at, and what priority they think it is. Then they can also go in and see what they've submitted. So they can see, oh, yeah, I did put something in on that. Here's where it's at, which is going to be great because that's going to ease a lot of phone calls that we get about along the way. Then the principal will have the opportunity. We are starting with just principals and APs. We may have to eventually add in some office managers if there's some problems with principals being able to get in. But for the startup, we really want to keep it focused. So they'll have the opportunity to approve or deny. And then at that point, we can assign it. And when we do, all of our maintenance workers carry iPhones and have apps, and they are connected to the work order system through that process. From their phones, they'll have the ability to scan barcodes and pull up all the information on the asset they're working on. They'll also have and see this unit's been serviced like 10 times in the last year. Red flag it for us. They also have the ability to, out in the field, create work orders, which we hope will help find things before other people have noticed them. Again, staff members will get notifications all along the way. The other cool piece about this program that we really liked was how many video training modules were available. So not only at the higher level that we would use the program, but all the way down to the end user, which we thought would be really important because sometimes your problem happens at 10 o'clock at night and you can't figure it out. So with that being said, we'll ask if you guys have any questions.
I do, in fact. Modules online. Have we shared this widely with the classroom teachers in terms of like getting them on board and doing any kind of instruction for them about the system?
I probably should have mentioned this, but I will now.
Thank you.
We are on January 27th, we began a 4-day rollout where we are meeting with, we have an on-site trainer coming into town. We paid for that piece because we thought it was that important. And we're going to be starting with our staff first, getting them trained. Then we're going to be having a class for principals. And then at that point, the online trainer is also going to help us in the rollout. There'll be shortcuts we drop on every computer in the school district.
starting emails will start coming out, training emails. For the teachers, I don't think it's going to be any different than for them really than putting in an IT work order. So I think as long as they know that this is your icon and here's what's going to happen, and you don't have to run to the office. And I think the few office managers I've already talked about it are kind of like, wow. So there will be training, yes.
Yeah, sounds like a great improvement, you guys. Great work.
Question, average, how many work orders do you get in a day? Or a week?
We get in the course of a year, I actually post this information on our webpage every year. I don't think anybody ever looks at it. But we do about 5,000 work orders a year.
Wow.
And it's
It also depends on the time of year.
yeah.
True.
The campfire, we had more.
Sure.
You know, like our first day of over 90 degrees.
Mm.
Or our first day of 60 degrees.
Absolutely. Air conditioning's not working, or yes.
Some days I've seen upwards of 65, 70 work orders in a 4-hour period.
You know, at first when I saw this agenda item, I was like, man, that's kind of expensive, you know, the ongoing fee. But hearing your explanations and hearing your presentation, the efficiency that it's going to afford you and everyone else in the district, as well as the asset tracking, that is so important. You were saying, you know, we've fixed this same unit 10 times. We could have paid for a new one by now. So I actually am in support of it, too.
One other thing that I'm personally excited about is a lot of times I get asked, okay, we have a problem where a student was hurt. We need to pull up all the work orders associated with this play box.
Yes. Right.
So I literally have to physically go through.
And search, yep.
We're no longer going to have that because we have a play area reclined there. And we can go right down to the slide if we want to.
Excellent, excellent. Very good, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, good. Thank you very much. That was great information. Okay, now we will have.
Need a motion to approve?
No, it's information only.
Okay.
We are talking about the resolution for the intention to purchase the real property at 2860 Fair Street.
Yes, we have a resolution to purchase property. Included with that is an attachment A, which is a purchase sale agreement. I'm just going to quickly go over some bullet points of why we are making this recommendation at this time. First of all, we've had a long desire to combine our administrative properties, which are located currently at 7th Street, and our corporation yard, which is out behind, right off 999. We have the superintendent HR business at on 7th Street, and then all of our support services, transportation, nutrition services, custodial maintenance facilities, all out at the courtyard. We think it would improve efficiency to be together. It would consolidate our independent study program where we're currently paying rent at Chico Mall. It would develop a boardroom and a large meeting space for collaboration across the entire district. And we do think it would improve customer service because it would be a one-stop shop if you were a parent, for instance. We believe this building is a good move for Chico Unified. It's large enough to consolidate all our services, as we mentioned, but it does constrain us to some extent, so we're not going to be beholden to a large admin building. It has a proximity to Highway 99, allowing for quick access to our schools. Sufficient technology infrastructure already exists in the building. And we have large open space allowing for a combination of division and departments, so we can structure things where we're more efficient as divisions and departments. This is important. No bond money will be used for this purchase. So we wanted to report that. We certainly want to make that public. The plan is really to leverage our corporation yard and property, either with a long-term land lease to basically create a revenue stream to pay for a debt that we would incur for this building, which then brings me to our intent to have a lease purchase debt instrument. We will bring that information to you at our next board meeting. If we get continued direction from the board, we bring that back to you in March to actually approve entering into that debt. At the 7th Street, as we got further down consolidation, we need to come back to the board and talk about the 7th Street property, what we'd like to do there. We just have some different ideas, but we do think there's value of holding onto that property and leveraging it for use for Chico Unified School District. So going to the resolution, that said, I'll just open it up to any questions from the board.
Yes, Linda? Oh, I thought you were just stretching, huh? Okay, Tom?
Then I'd like to move resolution number 1492-20.
I'll second that motion, and I have a comment just to let, well, the public know that this isn't a spur-of-the-moment kind of thing. We've been aware that we needed to move in this direction for, I think, as long as I've been on the board. And, you know, the right time, place just didn't present itself. And so we're hopefully crossing our fingers that this one's going to work, because it does seem as though it is a good use of our resources to do this. So I appreciate your work, Kevin and Julie, and, well, others. You guys aren't the only ones, but it'll be a significant upgrade if we are able to do this, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, so I just had one question. So the courtyard that we have, and you mentioned leveraging that, do we know what kind of market there is for renting that type of site?
Good question. I mean, that's not the normal business we're in to understand that market, but I would say it's valuable land right off Highway 99. We do note that the parcel of land that's just to the north of us has recently had a sign placed on it that said available, where for years there wasn't any movement that we could see on that property itself. So I think if we were off that property, it's a pretty desirable location, right off Highway 99 with really kind of a large space, really perfectly situated for commercial property. So to answer your question, I don't know that. We will ask those questions to get a better sense of the market, but in any situation, it's hard to tell whether that's going to be something that's going to move in months or it might take years.
Mm-hmm.
We do think, again, though, that that is a unique property right off Highway 99, and parking buses doesn't seem to be the best use.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, well, we had a motion by Dr. Kaiser, a second by Eileen Robinson, and I guess we're ready to take a vote. Is there any further discussion in the audience? Okay, in that case, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, our next one has to also deal with this, and is CEQA, as you mentioned before.
I will also move resolution 1491-20.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion about this? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. The next one has to do with the Measure E and Measure K obligation bonds audit.
Yes, I've directed the board's attention to the report itself, and specifically page 15, which is the auditor's opinion. And I'll just read that. The results of our tests, that's the audit firm, indicate that in all significant respects, the district expended Proposition 39 Measure E and Measure K general obligation bond funds for the year ended June 30th, 2019, only for the specific projects developed by the district's board of trustees and approved for by the voters in accordance with the requirements of Proposition 39. So this is an outside firm that's reviewed our expenditures, and they put their stamp of approval that we're using it as we said we would. With that, I would submit to you for approval. We will take this to a bond oversight committee meeting later this month for their review as well.
Okay, yes, Kathy?
So can we get a little bit of cleanup of page 12 after our discussion? Thank you.
Yes, I think the specific is the designation of whether a project was completed or in progress, and we will change Chico High Athletic, for instance, Pleasant Valley Athletic to be completed.
Okay. We'll note that. Do we have a motion then to approve?
Okay.
I move approval of resolution, let's see.
It's 2018-19, Measure E and K.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, approval of the audit, and, okay. So we have a motion by Eileen Robinson, a second by Dr. Kaiser. Yes.
Just for housekeeping. I want to make sure, is Loma Vista going to be in that list of items we're going to move to the completed column as well? That was, okay.
Thank you.
We'll relook at the designations
Okay.
of in progress or completed, make sure we're tying it to not only the work completed, but also the notice of completion that we received.
Right.
Yeah.
To make sure we get that.
Okay, so that would be with the stipulation that that will be reviewed again and updated as far as what's been completed. Okay, then, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's approved unanimously. All righty, thank you. And now we will move to Mr. Hanlon.
Okay. So what I'm asking for is the approval for Resolution 1489-20. This eliminates a 6-hour position for visually impaired instructional aid. This is typically when I come to you, these are positions that are not occupied. These are fairly rare positions. We don't have many visually impaired students, so they kind of rise and fall with the actual student being enrolled in Chico Unified. However, we have a shortage of instructional aides, so this is just a reassignment. So we have plenty of positions available elsewhere. So I'm just asking for an elimination of this particular position.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Eileen Robinson, second by Tom Lando. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any other announcements at this time? Do we have any more items from the floor at this time? Well, who are you people in the audience? Anyhow. Oh, you're with Pivot. Okay. Well, see, we like to know who's in our audience. Thank you for coming and sitting through the whole meeting. All right, with that, I am going to adjourn the meeting.